I want to turn to Mark Hetfield, who's the president and CEO of HIAS, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, a nonprofit aimed at advocating for refugees and displaced people. I'll ask you what I've asked others here, big picture, your just thoughts on everything that we've seen and unfold over this weekend.
Well, what we saw unfold on Friday was the most vile thing I've ever seen come out of the White House in my 28 years of working in this field, this executive order, which was so un-American by slamming the door in the face of refugees when they need it the most. But what I've seen over this weekend has been one of the best things that I've ever seen. Seeing Americans in the streets chanting, "No hate, no fear, refugees are welcome here," made me proud to be an American, which is not what I was feeling on Friday night.
And so how does that matter? Rachel Maddow was saying earlier tonight that the protest movement, the activity, the people gathering in all these places will be the first counterpush and will create the sort of baseline for how many aspects of our country respond. Government, civil society, the culture, if we can be so broad. Given your work in this area, is that your view? Are refugees going to be more or less popular through all this as people learn the facts?
We hope so, and they should be. I mean, it's an American tradition to welcome refugees, and it's so great to see that galvanizing the American people. It certainly galvanized my community. The week of the inauguration, we had 1,700 rabbis from 48 different states and the District of Columbia sign a statement saying that we need to keep our doors open for refugees. We were hoping that would have an influence on President Trump. Obviously, it did not. So all we have left is protest.
Do you think that this administration simply misunderstands the threat matrix, given the apparent focus on refugees in this order?
No, I do not. The pretense of this document, the excuse of this document was security, but we already have extreme vetting. President Obama installed extreme vetting in 2011 when he stopped the program for Iraqis for 6 months. We have it already. When you read the purpose part of the executive order, it's very clear where they were coming from. There's not one kind word about refugees, not one word about what they've contributed to this country, not one word about what they're fleeing from. Instead, the entire document is focused on how they're a threat to us, how they're a security threat, how they are, ironically enough, bigots. I mean, how they want to impose Sharia law instead of and not the American Constitution. I mean, their intention was so clear from the purpose part of this document. They could have put a throwaway line in there that said something decent and nice about refugees, but they didn't. This was meant to exclude Muslims from this country.
Right. You mentioned that. You mentioned the introduction to the document and what it says it was setting out to do, and the lack of what had been a bipartisan tradition of talking about the American values with refugees and the idea that Americans, of course, in our history come from other countries and protect human rights. Mark Hetfield from HIAS, thank you for joining us and sharing your refugee expertise. That wraps up my 3 hours of live coverage. I am Ari Melber. I appreciate you watching. You can always email me, Ari at MSNBC.com.